Hello, everybody. Welcome to a new edition of AACE Brazil Connection. This is our monthly program in which we invite experts, authorities, and practitioners of cost engineering to bring us what's happening in the cost engineering world. And this month, we are very pleased to have here with us Deborah Lally, who is our CEO. She is the CEO of AACE International. And Deborah, welcome. It's a pleasure to have you here with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Right. And we also have here our regional director, Region 10, which is the Latin American region, our colleague Piero Anticona, who is in Peru. Piero, welcome to our AACE Connection.
No, thank you for the invitation. Happy to be here.
Right. And well, this being said, I would like to introduce our international director. Brazil section is the only section that has an international director, who is Felipe Gutierrez. And Felipe will gently conduct this interview with Deborah Lally, and Piero will be making questions too. So please feel free to make questions in the chat box, and we will be interacting with Deborah Lally, who is the CEO of AACE International. So Felipe, you have the word. You start us off.
All right, excellent. Thank you, Aldo. Thank you, Deb. Thank you, Piero. Thank you, the AACE and all the members and the people who are interested in this conversation today. As Aldo said, this is a new program, yet very successful. People are showing a lot of support, and we have been lucky to have very interesting people joining us and discussing matters that are of interest to our community. We had, as we did before, the idea today is to have a conversation with Deb Lally. She'll be telling us a little bit about what's going on at the AACE level. We also have today Piero, as Aldo well introduced, the regional director for LATAM for AACE. So we also have some questions coming from his perspective. So that'll be interesting to see, what news we have and what matters are of interest to AACE globally, but also regionally for us in Brazil and elsewhere across the region. So without further ado, we had lined up a few questions for you, Deb. Again, thank you for taking the time and giving us the opportunity to have this conversation with you. It's something it doesn't happen very often, so it's very interesting. I'm very happy that you're here with us today. And I guess just as a matter of introduction, instead of me telling who you are, if you wouldn't mind, telling us a little bit about yourself, what kind of studies did you do in what kind of previous experience did you have that allowed you to arrive at this very important position for all of us?
Absolutely. And thank you once again so much for inviting me. One of the best parts of my job is doing exactly this. It's meeting the members. That's why associations exist. It's for you and to be in service of you. And I think that's just the coolest part of association work for me. To back up a little, I've been in the association world for about 15 years. Prior to that, I was in publishing. So backing up a little further, I went to university I majored in history with a minor in creative writing. And I really only majored in history because I'm a little bit of a nerd about history, but I also just wanted to read and write. It's my passion. I love reading, I love writing, and that's what the major that allowed me to do it. And that's also why I went into the publishing industry directly out of college. Landed in publishing, worked in healthcare, medical content for a while, and I stumbled into the association world, as a lot of us association executives do. I went to a radiology association to manage and be the director of their publications. And then learned more about the world of association management and just fell in love with it. It really is a connection for me of two passions. One is leadership and the other is professional development. And both of those are in the association space for both the members and those of us who work on behalf of you. So I earned my CAE in 2017, and a CAE is a certified association executive. So there is literally an association for everything out there. So I'm a member of an association for association executives that has a credential, the CAE, just like AAC does with all of its certifications. So I am literally have been in your seat and am still in your seat. I'm a member, active volunteer of 2 associations in the association management space myself. And earning my CAE was really important to me. And I think I can empathize and relate to a lot of you who hold certifications with AACE, because it meant a lot to me personally to obtain that credential, because it took a lot of work to get there. And only 10% of association executives in America have earned that credential. So it really shows my dedication to this space and just how much passion I have for it. So I worked for 2 healthcare associations prior to joining AACE last year. And the great thing about association management is that you don't necessarily have to be a subject matter expert in the membership organization that you're in. It's actually a great merging of 2 subject matter expertise with our board of directors and our volunteer force, that they are the subject matter experts and I'm the subject matter expert in how to run a nonprofit business in America. So both of those coming together help us mutually build the best programs and services that we can. And you know, it's actually kind of funny. I'm approaching my 1-year anniversary with AAC, and in some ways I feel like I just got here, and in other ways I feel like I've been here for 20 years. And the weirdest thing, for lack of a better professional term, was interviewing with the organization and the search committee during a pandemic, virtually, and starting managing a staff and leading a staff virtually. So that certainly presented some unique challenges, but also at the end of the day, I didn't have a choice. So one of the key things I focused on once the board of directors decided that they wanted to hire me was really just to do a listening tour. And the biggest part of my onboarding last year was just listening and talking to staff and talking to you folks, talking to as many members as I could in different positions. Different volunteer positions within the organization, and really digging deep into what you all, not only just what you all do for a living, which is why this association exists, but why you're members. Why do you do what you do? Because I think that gets at the heart of what makes the association so great. And that gets at the heart of building recruitment initiatives and retaining members. But before we get too far into the future of AAC and what that means, I do want to go back to why I'm here in particular, as opposed to any other association. And that really is because I felt a connection to be a contributor to the culture here. I didn't want to just be a culture fit, because again, I don't do what you do, but I wanted to be able to contribute and build on the culture that already exists. And this organization is 65 years old this year, which is also very cool, and quite an honor to be a part of the future of that. But I've really worked this past year at getting to know all of you, getting to know your technical knowledge, and mostly building trust with the staff, building trust with the members, the board of directors, for you all to know that I'm here to serve you and to help you guys do better and be better. And that's the whole purpose of my job.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome, really is. And it does bring us to try to understand and to try to figure out how do you see and what is the future of the AAC for us globally. I mean, what are you guys preparing? Where do you see the association going in the future?
So one of the other reasons I thought it was a great opportunity to be a part of this organization right now is because there was a shift starting in AACE before the pandemic to look at the whole structure of the organization and what that means and how we can best serve all members, not just members in the United States and North America. And the pandemic really amplified that and sped things up. And I actually think it's really cool, Philippe, that you're, as Aldo said, the only international director of a section, because I think we're going to see more of that, whether it's in an official capacity or not.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Because the very nature of what's happened by default over this past year in meeting virtually, more sections are doing more of this. They're collaborating, and that's been happening organically because of COVID, but also I think it's here to stay. And that's how you all are gonna learn more and do more, is by cross collaboration and breaking down those walls. You know, we truly are a global organization, but have we really lived up to that? So I think the future of AACE is really looking at our structure and looking at member engagement and how we can build on that and keep learning from each other to grow. You know, the organization does have a strategic plan in place, and it was established at the end of 2019 as a 3-year plan. And in talking to our current leadership at the board, we already need to change that. And so much has changed in the past year and a half in all of our lives, but that strategic plan is quickly becoming irrelevant. I mean, the pace of change is so quick in a good way that we need to be able to stay nimble, but also focused on the core mission of the organization. So the 3 initiatives of the strategic plan right now that I do think will translate into any future strategic plan and will guide the future of the organization really is around our structure. And I think sections are a really important part of that. And I think we need to do a more intentional job about being more inclusive of sections within the overall overarching organization, instead of each section as its own little island, that it's really part of the international unit. And you know, we're embarking on this strategic initiative with an outside consultant this year to look at whose specialty is association component relations, chapter relations, section relations. So she is doing a deep dive into who we are to see where we're at, to see where we could go in the future. But she just sent a survey to all of our section leaders, 300 something section leaders. And we got over a 40% response rate within the first few days. And that tells me that you guys have something to say, and sections really have something to say. And that's a good thing. And I'm not sure how well you've been heard over the past 60 years that sections have been around. So I think that is one of the most exciting parts about the future of AAC, is how we can integrate sections more and include members at the section level into an international, truly international structure.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm sure Piero will have questions about that in a moment. He obviously has a very interesting perspective as well to understand how it all is going to work. In terms of challenges, key challenges, and how to overcome them, you know, I know there are many. Some of the challenges we've been discussing just before the call included, you know, the fees, that the current fee structure that there are out there for membership, the fact that it is in US dollars and so on. You know, if there's anything that you guys are touching or thinking about that you can already tell us if there's anything. Another question that also comes to mind often is the language that is utilized on the reps, on the recommended practices. So if you could touch base on something, you know, those matters, and also other challenges you might have in mind as well, that'll be great for us to listen from you.
Absolutely. And in addition to those two, I'll add one more at the end, but I'll address those two first. Certainly, the membership fee structure, that question, from my understanding, has been around for a while, certainly long before I got here, and understood that different parts of the world, it's more difficult to pay the $200 US dollar membership dues every year. And what can we do about that and how can we help with that? I don't have the answer for you right now today. Wish I did, but it's complicated. You know, it really is complicated to be equitable and fair across the globe, and you know how we look at our own internal systems and what we have to work with now and how we can improve upon those to better serve international members. But it also goes back to that real cultural piece of we need to better embrace ourselves as a truly international organization and not just have international in the name of our organization, really live by those words. And one of the nice things about the past few months is, if you recall, we had a bit of a governance restructure. We completely updated our bylaws. And one of the things that we did in the new bylaws, which then trickles down to our policy and procedure manual, is we created a new membership advisory committee. And so those bylaws were voted on and approved by the membership this past spring. They were officially adopted by the board of directors just a few weeks ago in June. And now we're rolling up our sleeves to put it all into place. So one of the many things that our membership advisory committee is going to be tasked with is this question of equity and fairness, and absolutely membership fee is tied to that. So I can say it's something we'll be looking into, but it's something that I unfortunately don't have an answer or solution for today. The other question around translations and language of our technical knowledge, also, that has been, from my understanding, a question that's been an issue that's been around for a long time. And how do we best honor our intellectual property, you know, with US copyright law, and how does that translate across the world, literally in a translation. So, but at the same time, we want to be able to educate all of our members on our technical knowledge. That is our mission, and that's our purpose. So we don't want to handicap our members whose first language is not English. But where's the fairness in that? So a true translation takes a real monumental effort to be able to roll up your sleeves and make that translation technically sound, given the nature of the content that you all work with in our body of knowledge. So that really is a rigorous process, and that can take sometimes years depending on the publication. So the board of directors adopted a new translation policy with this recent governance structure change in our new policy and procedure manual, which has just been made available on our website for the first time. It's never been available to the members before, and it should have been, because it's your document. The members own an association, they run the association. So it is there to look at, but just roughly, we have changed our translation policy to be a translation does not need prior approval from AACE for individual use rights. It cannot be commercially distributed or made publicly available in another language unless it does go through a permissions and translation and more rigorous process. And to see the details of that policy, you can look on our website and certainly reach out to me for more questions. I can point you to the best staff member to talk to about that, who knows a lot more about this than I do. But I think we're heading in the right direction. You know, the organization, this technical knowledge, we're approaching our 100th RP this summer, which is a huge accomplishment for the organization. So to have that much content in English only is a disservice to the other folks around the world who could really benefit from that knowledge.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I have been working with with technical documents for a very long time in different languages, and as you well said, I mean, it's always a monumental effort to make sure that when you translate anything that's technical, it does reflect the messages, not only the words. So I do understand that something that needs to be done in my mind. It needs to be done very carefully.
Right, and you need to maintain the intent and the integrity of the knowledge. And I think that's what makes AACE so fantastic, in my humble opinion, is it's the high caliber of knowledge base here. You know, I feel like if you're a member of the organization, you're really aligning yourself with that quality. And if you say you're an AAC member or certified in one of our certifications, that speaks to the high caliber of the content that you all put into all of this knowledge.
Yes, you allow me to comment as well and to add something else, is that all our members see an added value to her profession, to their profession of what AAC can offer to them in terms of technical concepts and tools to apply in project management. So, and also, for example, for translation, we've done a lot of things here. So maybe you you cannot start from scratch. That's my message. There is something done here so that maybe you can discuss and see and evaluate, assess, I don't know. So that will be important because that's like the intention as well. So to get what you can offer as from US, I mean from headquarters, and to pass the message to in other languages and to the region. So I think, yeah, in terms of translation, in terms of what we've done here, it's been important. We're still doing it. We don't commercial anything, as you mentioned it. We use it for individuals as well, for groups. Also, we have discussions about terms, but because even in Spanish, in different countries, we have different concepts of some terms as well. So yeah, it's a big effort, but still, we think it's reachable. It could be doable. So yes, count on us in anything you need to start working on this. We've done something here so that we can share with you without any problem.
That's great, and that's great to hear, and you know that really speaks to the values and collaboration of the members of the organization, which is just really great. You know, we'd be nothing without our army of volunteers out there. You guys put all the effort into the work, and we wouldn't exist without you. So thank you. You know,
yeah,
sorry, Philippe, did you have something?
No, go on that, please.
So I am actually going to interrupt because I have a puppy. So I didn't say this at the top of the hour, but this is one of the benefits of working from home now is, you know, your COVID puppy starts getting hyper at this time of night. So you hear scratching, that's him. That is also fascinating to segue a little bit, starting in a virtual environment and working virtually. You know, the AAC office has been moved entirely remote going forward. We closed our physical office at the end of last year, and our lease was up anyways. So it really was a fortuitous timing. The fact that I'm based in the Boston area, all of the staff in the headquarters is based in West Virginia and the Southern Pennsylvania area. So it's been quite an adjustment working fully virtual indefinitely. But you know, both logistical and cultural changes. But I have to say, it's been really fantastic, and the staff have been amazing. But I digress. So one of the other things I wanted to touch on.
Yeah, no problem. Sorry, I was just going to make a comment, and that is that I'm sure some of the new reps, some of the new recommended practices being issued in the near-term future, will deal with it. Because we'll be talking about how do we do construction, how do we do project management going forward in a situation where people are, if they're not at site, they're not necessarily in the same office, right, from a central office perspective. So that'll be interesting to see how that impacts construction and engineering, project management, project controls going forward. So there will be more and more discussions and wraps around that for sure.
Yeah, and I'd love to hear more about that, whether it's right now or not, because one of the things I asked the search committee when I was interviewing with the organization, I mean, this was right when COVID hit. March, April, May of last year when I was interviewing. And I asked the search committee how COVID was impacting membership and what you all do. And they didn't have an answer yet, just because of the nature of this industry. You know, it's like, it's more of a wait and see. Whereas I was coming from the world of healthcare. So the impact of COVID was immediate and intense. So it's interesting to hear, will be interesting to hear where things are now and where do you see things going in your industry?
Yeah, there's and I think that that's also going to be also fascinating to see how other matters get into the discussions, such as cybersecurity, which is something that probably wasn't too much in the radar before, but it's absolutely critical now, and it can make a difference in everything we do going forward. So one of the questions we had from the audience, actually, it's a good way to get into that. They're saying, Ricardo Alexandre says, the future of ACE. No, it's more of a question. Is it associated to digitalization or the digitalization of as an open statement, or do you think that the human factor will always be one of the most relevant ones in our universe, for the AC perspective?
I don't think anything can ever replace the human experience and the human factor. I think related to the association world, not your industry in particular, I think you could probably speak to that better than I could. But I think a really telling example of that is our events and meetings and conferences. And there's been this almost panic that, are we just going all virtual meetings forever, even when the pandemic is behind us? And I feel strongly the answer is no. I mean, human beings we're built for connection, and that in-person connection, you can't replace that. And it's interesting because when I was in publishing, it was late 90s, early 2000s, that when there was the big panic was, is print publication going away? Is print going away? Is it all going to be digital? Is it all online? And here we are, and the answer is no. I mean, we can make the best of both worlds. We have online publications, and we have people who still like the physical. For me, like I said, I'm a big word nerd. I have my Kindle with my books that I like to read electronically. I still have books that I get the hard copies of. And if I read a book on my Kindle that I really just feel passionately about, I'll then go buy the physical copy of it. So I think we're going to land in this more hybrid model with related to events and in the association world in particular. It's like this past year, we've all been like put on a blanket and like thrown up in the air, and things are just shaken up. And now we're over the next year, we're going to see where it all lands. And what does the future of meetings look like? And what does the future of this human interaction, human connection look like? And working in a virtual office now, we have to, in the office, have to be really intentional about communicating. But, no machine learning is going to replace that conversation and how to roll up your sleeves and brainstorm around a problem and work on that to solve that. So that's my long-winded answer of saying that no, I don't think the human piece is going anywhere. It just may look different.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Even though it's going to be different, it's already being different, right? It's already changing, as we can all see every day. So the technology will be more and more involved in everything we do, but will never substitute the human. I don't think that's also my opinion. Sorry, Piero. Go on.
Yes, for example, here in Peru, companies are starting working remotely. And for example, project controllers also, they are working from home and they are not going to site. They use other tools to do the site visits, for example, like drones, right? And mixed with technologies like BIM, for example. So that is also another question that could raise. So what will do AACE to adapt these new methodologies, maybe in the knowledge that AACE can offer So something to discuss maybe for the future. How can we use both methodologies and knowledge in the future for the benefit of our professionals, our members, right? Yeah.
Absolutely, and I think when you have any major societal disruptor, I think that's when the best innovation happens. And related to technology, and again, I'll go back to the meetings space because it's a core component of the operations that I work in, is planning meetings and events. The technology is already improving. It's improving the experience for the user, whether we're going to go to hybrid meetings, there's an in-person component with the virtual. Price points start coming down. When you went to do a hybrid meeting a couple of years ago, I mean, it's incredibly expensive. But now some of those price points are going down because it's becoming easier to do and facilitate. So just really keeping on top of those trends that are coming out as a result of this disruption.
Yeah, nice. And I must apologize. I don't remember if when we mentioned that Piero was also here in the call and Aldo introduced him. I don't know if we mentioned one of the reasons why he's here today. So normally how we do it is like they will have one interviewer, and at least so far has been one interviewer, one interviewee, and today we have two interviewers. So Piero, as well introduced, is the head and the president of Aace Latam, Region 10. One of the reasons we have him today is that we're going to have the regional event hold in Brazil this year as a Latam event, right? So one of the questions we are seeing here from Aldo is in the YouTube chat is if we already know where the next annual meeting will be. I'm sure it's going to be if you already have that, so people will start looking into how to be there and how to plan in advance. Because as you well said, that the virtual is part of our life today, but a lot of people, myself included, feel like to see people, to meet, and to be able to have a coffee with them, right? That kind of quality relationship that you can have at those great events that the Aace have.
Sorry, can you repeat?
Did you still there, Deb?
Yeah, I thought we were asking Piero about the annual meeting coming up.
Yeah, but the annual.
No. I think the question was if we will see another annual meeting in a different country, maybe in the future.
Oh, AACE's Conference and Expo.
Yes.
Gotcha.
That was right there.
I love the idea. I don't know about operationalizing that. It's these meetings get planned out years in advance just because of the size and the scope of them. But I love that idea. You guys are having your regional meeting in December?
December.
And which country is that going to be in? Is that going to be in Brazil?
In Brazil, yeah.
Yeah, we had, 2 years now, we've had to have the virtual conference and expo, the big meeting, but we did have a smaller in-person retreat in June in Boston, where we're supposed to have the bigger meeting. Normally we get, I can't remember what our international attendance normally is at the in-person event, but it's been a great way to include more of the international folks in the virtual component. But even before this virtual meeting and even before the in-person Boston retreat, so many of our members have already been talking about the 2022 meeting in Texas and getting back to an in-person event and connecting all together again. And the year after that, it's in Chicago. So 2024 is open, Piero.
Yeah, okay. We'll talk to some presidents, some countries then.
Right.
So is the next expo in 2024?
No, the next conference and expo is next year in 2022. in Texas. The one in 2023 is in Chicago. And the one in
Oh,
2024 is open. So we haven't booked our space yet. But, you know, I'm not opposed to going to some really great locations if you've got some, you know, beautiful resorts and hotels and.
Yes, any part of the region, yeah, could be.
How many folks do you typically get at this regional event?
Average is like well, like 200 attendees. Yeah,
that's great. That's a really great turnout. Hopefully there's a lot of buzz and excitement about attending it again this year.
Yeah,
I think people are.
Yes, well, yes, I think that's the goal. And I think, well, I still don't know exactly what Aldo and Felipe are planning for this Congress. They will do a mix of virtual and, you know, presence. But still, all the region, we are always interested in attending this kind of events. Also, the interest is because the technical part is very, very important, and compared to other, I would say, associations, is a high level standard. This is also I would like to highlight. That's why also Aace is important here in the region. It offers a lot of value, a lot of knowledge, but still we have this restriction of the language. That's why for us it's important to, at least for those who don't speak English, or at least read English, to have access to this knowledge, right? That's why we're doing this effort for our other fellows to get into this information.
Right, and that's, you know, it's one thing that, to go back to challenges going forward for the organization, I think a big challenge for us is around marketing and communications, and that absolutely is relevant to our international audience. You know, when I was first interviewing with the organization, someone said that Aace is the best kept secret in the industry, and that's both a wonderful and terrible thing to be. So the challenge there is expanding who we are, and to get to your point, you know, we can't be all things to all members, but we can be all things to some members, you know, and that relates to the segment of members that are in different countries who do not speak any English at all. How can we help customize the experience of membership for them, and what does that look like? And you know, we're really just starting after 65 years, starting to roll up our sleeves around that and communicating our value proposition. When we need to back up and say, well, what is really our value proposition? Is it the same proposition that it's been for 60 years? I don't know that it is. So we really need to poke holes in that and get at that core message. You know, cost engineering, from what I've learned so far, it's an interesting field of study, because our membership, it does surround a field of study. It's not one profession. It's not one industry. So really trying to be all things to some members in each pocket is a challenge, and it can feel overwhelming as the leader of the organization to figure out how to tackle that. But I do think we tackle it one piece at a time, and we're not going to solve it all right now. But the great thing is that we're talking about it. And as long as we keep talking about it, then that's where solutions come from. And I know as a staff, we're doing it, as a board of directors, we're doing it. And really just trying to understand from members what their biggest pain points are. You know, because the biggest pain points for members in Peru may not be the same ones as the ones in Texas. So we need to figure that out and help build the experience for everyone. And, you know, that sounds nice in theory as I talk about it, but how do you actually put that into practice? And that's what we really have to figure out.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
So there's going to be a survey about that. I mean, to identify the profile of the AACE member?
So one big initiative that we're working on this year, and it's actually one of the 3 core components of our current strategic plan, is around marketing, communications, and member engagement. So we are working, and it's one thing that AACE has never intentionally done is marketing. We've never had a marketing staff person. You know, our member volunteers, you aren't marketers, nor should you be. That's not what you do for a living. So we have engaged an outside party this year to do a real 3-prong approach related to member outreach and research, both quantitative and qualitative. We're starting with a member recruitment campaign. So in August, we're launching a campaign to target 1,000 new members in the organization by the end of the year. And from that, we're going to learn a lot. So we're learning a lot about who we contact with what message, and about when I say who we contact, where they are, what industry, what profession, where in the world they are. Did they respond to a certain message? How are they responding to it? Have they engaged with us in the past, and in what capacity? So what can we learn from all that to then build a strategy for all of our programs, products, and services, not just membership, related to our Ps, our technical knowledge, our meetings, our online seminars, so that we can operationalize an actual strategy for engaging in outreach with all members next year and going forward. And this goes back to the very beginning of when we started talking about sections. You know, sections are going to be a key component of that outreach for us. And the initiative around sections that I mentioned, and this initiative around marketing and communications that I'm mentioning now, they're very intertwined and they're very related. So we're doing surveys, but we're also holding focus groups and talking to people and building task forces to get at those questions. But it's a learning process, and we're going to have to keep learning as we go. But we're focusing on it. And I think that's the most important piece. One thing that I was hired to do last year, quite frankly, is focus on membership marketing and communications. And it's part of my background in publications is around communications as well. So I'm hoping to be able to make some headway here and to help all members feel more included and acquire some new members, not just to have new members. You know, the board told me last year that they wanted to grow membership, and I actually turned that right around and said, why? You know, you don't want to grow just to grow. You know, there needs to be intention behind that growth. And I think when you get at that core message around why we want to grow, that's the messaging you want to put out there, and making the industry better and improving the quality of your projects. And that's what we need to communicate.
Yeah, that's sorry, Piero, I was just going to answer another question that came through our chat that asks essentially, you know, what is the greatest perhaps differentiator of AACE when compared to other you know, project controls associations? Do we have that already clearly identified? It might be a combination of things, but that's obviously something that, because there's also competition, right? I mean, we look into these associations and we might think, you know, oh, it's, you know, not for profit, but reality is, if you want to be successful, and if the why is to support, you know, more people within the industry, there's going to be competition in that sense as well. So what is that, you know, our members and potential people who are potentially interested in becoming members can identify as something that stands out as compared to others?
Yeah, and I think that's 2-pronged. I think it's related to the professional development and the education, both formal, informal, and the connection piece. Because, and so the first part related to the professional development is the high quality, high caliber technical knowledge that the organization has that a lot of competitors don't. And that is what AACE is known for. But I think the integral piece to that is the connection piece. So the membership piece and the building connections and the networking. You know, you can't just go to another organization and take a course and walk away and be done. I mean, you can and get a CEU, and that's great. But what about that conversation you're having with someone who does exactly what you do? And what are you learning from that person? And that's the beauty of an association, is that you have that built-in network of people. You know, you have a choice to be here. No one's forcing you to be here. So it already says a lot about you as a member, that you're thirsty for more knowledge and to build your career and to grow and to learn. That's why I'm a member of 2 associations. So I get that, I can relate. And so I think that that built-in connection piece related to the professional development piece is what is the differentiator of the organization.
Awesome.
Yes, if you, I would like to also comment that, for example, another things that AAC can offer is the certifications. For us, it's very important, for example, to validate our experience, our expertise, and AAC can offer that, these certifications. But again, because of the language, and sometimes it's a restriction, because, for example, papers cannot be submitted in Spanish, or the exams cannot be taken in Spanish, for example, or Portuguese, right? But still, we're still trying to help our people here, our members, or those who are interested in get certified. How can they reach that in the short term? Because now what I see here in the region is there is a lot more interest in, well, I will speak about PMI, because PMI is very well positioned here in the region. But now AAC can offer a different value, because these people has gotten experience, so this experience can be validated with these certifications, right? So it's something that we have to look at it, I think, in the future as well for the region.
Absolutely, and you know, it's complicated, right? And you know, it's I wish it were easily solvable, but I think that's the great thing about where we're positioned, is we've been here for 65 years doing a lot of the same things. I think there's going to be a lot of change over the next, not just 65 years, over the next 5 years. And I think a lot of it is related to the international global component.
Yeah, more, now more, I guess, side question. How do you see this, you know, the connection program going? Because we didn't have a chance to discuss it, introduce you to the program, what it is about. So it really is about, you know, allowing different groups having access to information that they would not have otherwise. More often than not, it's more technical. But now, you know, it's a great opportunity for us all to learn and to hear from you from the very top. You know, what's the future of the organization, the challenges, and so on. So how are you experiencing this this format, this program that we've put together?
Well, selfishly, I think it's fantastic. Again, I get to spend time with you all and get to know you. I mean, I don't get to see the other folks who are on the call, but happy to answer any other questions. And it's funny, for those of you in the audience, when Philippe asked me to join this conversation, and I knew this program existed, I was in the audience with Chris Cadell when you were chatting with him. And I said to you, I don't know anything about project controls. If you're looking for technical knowledge, you've got the wrong lady. But I love that you're expanding it to just talk about the broader picture, and you know, and recognizing what AACE means to individuals like you. So I love being a part of this conversation. I was part of the Project Control Summit in May. That was also a fantastic experience, just getting to know more folks who do what you do, because ultimately that's part of my professional development. You know, education is changing. It's no longer a classroom formal setting. For me, this is professional development, because I'm learning more about what you do. I'm learning more about what you need. I can take that back to my staff. I can take it back to the board of directors and just have a conversation around it. And it also helps build my knowledge, because I didn't come up in the industry doing what you do. Just like when I was in healthcare, I learned a lot about what our members did, but I can't go out and practice radiology, nor should I.
Yeah, and I think personal perspective, I think it's great to have someone like you leading the organization. It's, you know, I think there's a more common kind of discussion was in the past. You would have doctors leading hospitals, for instance, and often they didn't do it well because they were good doctors, but not good managers. So you have to have people doing what they are good at and trained for. That increases the chances of success, and I think it's really great to have somebody with your background leading the ACE development. It's really good. Okay.
Yeah, and the organization at the end of the day, whether it's the staff that I work with or the members, it's really all about the people. And you know, it's interesting because I consider myself a leader more than a manager, because managers manage process, leaders lead people. And I'm in the business of people. So I'm working with my staff to build a better world for you all. And by getting to know you more, you here, and also you generally, the world of AAC members, current or potential members, the better, it's a symbiotic relationship, the better that I'm able to then do my job.
Yes, count on us for any question, any help you need from the region. Happy to help.
Well, Piero, I'm excited that you're the newly elected RD down there, the newly elected regional director. Very exciting.
Yeah, me too.
So how long, let me turn this around on you both. How long have you both been members, and why did you become a member?
Go first, Piero.
Okay. Well, I knew about AAC in 2007 when I started a master program in project management in France, actually. And so since then, I knew AAC and became a member since 2009. So when I got my certification in CCP, that time was CEE. So
Right.
it changed. Yes. Since then, I am a member. I was president of the section here in Peru, and now I am director of AAC. So never went away.
Yeah, good. And I've been a member for about 10 years, more or less. And I learned about it, you know, funny enough, like Piero, in some other country. I was living in South Africa, working for a consulting firm that did lots of consulting work in the construction industry. And they were all, actually, I was living in Australia and went to South Africa. So when I was in South Africa, these people were doing something that was new for us back in Australia. People were not familiarized with it. And they were all studying, you know, to become certified, and they were all members of the AC, and that's how I get to know. And as soon as I came back to Brazil in 2008, I became a member in 2009, I think it was. So, and have been a member since. See, Aldo has joined us. Normally,
I joined the EAC in 2007. I was living in Egypt, and then I was searching how to estimate contingency for a cost estimate. And then I came upon AACE recommended practices, and it was it was a point of inflection in my career, because I immediately became a member. And then when I came back to Brazil, I decided to open the Brazil section. And then I sent an email to AACE headquarters, and they told me there are 25 Brazilian members. And then I was able to locate, I think, 22 of them, and they all said, "Oh, it's a good move. Let's open a Brazil section." And then we made a petition, and then we became a section in 2012, and we have been growing steadily. And this is good because we're increasing awareness of the association and the value to become a member. Many people ask me, is it expensive to be a member? I say, well, you were thinking in terms of price. I think in terms of value. I think it's valuable to be a member, and I benefit from being a member. And this is what I can say, because it's an association of senior people. It's not an association of young engineers, okay, mostly. And we discuss sophisticated issues and new matters, and we have a good networking with interesting people. And I like very much to be a member.
I love that you said that, Aldo, because, you know, we were talking earlier about value proposition, and it's in the association world, it is when people leave an association, when they don't renew their membership, the easiest answer to check the box on an exit survey is didn't want to pay the dues, or the dues were too high. And in the United States, I'm just talking in the United States, if it was $200, that is not unreasonable if you really value what you're getting. So I think the real reason people leave is they're not connecting with the value somehow. And that's a harder gap to bridge.
Yeah, I made a calculation here in Brazil. $200 is expensive in Brazil. If a member, a non-member registers in all the events that we have, then the membership dues, you know. So being a member here, if the member is interested in taking part in our community, in our courses, webinars, and whatever, it's worth to be a member because it pays off. Felipe,
Yes, I
I
agree.
think we can well, thank Deb Lally for this delightful chat that we had here. It was not a class, it was not a webinar, it was a conversation between the headquarters and our section. And this is the first time that I talk to somebody from the from HQ looking at the person. It's amazing. And so thank you very much for saying yes to this invitation made by Felipe, and I'm glad to see that you were accessible and that we can, from Latin America, rely on you and count on you.
Oh, it is truly an honor to join you and, you know, look you in the eye, but also hopefully we can actually shake hands someday. I know that sounds crazy in a pandemic. But no, it's been.
Yeah, you were invited. You are our guest, and I want you to be here in our Latin America conference. It will be in the first week of December, the end of the first week of December. And so please come to see how we organize things and how we handle these events here in South America. It will be good for you.
As long as you teach me some basic Portuguese to get by.
I will, I promise.
No, thank you. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
And everybody who was attending this connection program again. Thank you so much. You all have a good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.